PSG 1, Bayern 2, and we're also going to be talking about Liverpool 1, Real Madrid 0. Make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel, and also getting into the comments and letting me know what you think about these two massive fixtures in the league phase of the Champions League. Going into today, I was really excited about these two games, and I think they kind of lived up to the hype, but not so much. But it is the league phase, so there is a little bit of acceptance that it's not like a knockout tie, right? Where teams are probably not at their maximum yet, but there's still a lot of takeaways that we could take away from each game. I want to start off with PSG versus Bayern Munich. I've been saying for basically since the season started that I think Bayern's front three of Kane, Luis Díaz, and Olise is the best in Europe. Do I think that they had the most sparkling performances today? No. But they definitely made PSG pay for the amount of defensive mistakes that they were making back there. It was a train wreck at the back for PSG today. I really do think that you saw some uncharacteristic mistakes back there from like somebody like Hakimi, Marquinhos. Wrap it up, buddy. The mistake for the second goal is just, it's such a bad error for somebody of his experience level. I'm like, listen, you won the Champions League. It might just be time to hang it up. And Chevalier, the new goalkeeper, I stand by the fact that I don't think Donnarumma is as good as people make him out to seem. But was he playing at a better level than Chevalier is now? Yes. He seems like he's not really meshing well yet with PSG. He's making some mistakes. He doesn't look confident and comfortable. And I think his nervousness was rubbing off on people. And Bayern Munich were pressing really high. They were really aggressive. There were times where I saw seeing Michael Olise press and tackle was like, he's like the ultimate cool guy, the ultimate laid back kind of person. But seeing him with such intensity, you could tell that Bayern were really up for it. And I think that that's a distinct difference in their attack this season. They seem incredibly locked into what Vincent Kompany is telling them to do. And I almost feel like it's almost to the detriment of today to a certain extent with what happened with Luis Díaz. Now, Luis Díaz was having a great game. He was having a great game. And I think that, just speaking about Luis Díaz just a little bit here, I think that he's a player that I definitely underestimated. And I think when he left the Premier League, there wasn't a big hoopla about it. There wasn't a big like, oh, we're losing one of the best players. We're losing one of the best attackers because Liverpool were bringing in all these other players. And I do think Luis Díaz to a certain extent had gotten like this reputation of being frustrating in some ways. Like he doesn't score when he needs to. He kind of over dribbles, whatever. I don't even think Liverpool fans were that concerned about him leaving. But the minute that he got to Bayern, he just looked like the best left winger in the world. And I think it's a little bit of maybe leaving a club that was definitely not maybe excited for you to go, but a little bit like, we're done with this guy. And stepping into a situation where he can really shine. And I think he is the perfect complement to Michael Olise and Harry Kane, and has been one of the best attackers in the world so far this season, and makes that attack into the best attack in Europe. The two goals that he scored, you can call them fortuitous because PSG were basically playing against themselves, but you still have to punish. There are teams that would have gotten those situations or gotten those chances from PSG and would not have scored. And I just think, all of it works together where you make your own luck. You press them, you harry them. They know they're playing up against a good team. You're intense. They make the mistakes and you still have to punish them. And I think that that's what Luis Díaz did. Now, circling back to my point on the intensity of Bayern and the way that they seemed really committed to pressing from the front and defending from the front, I think that's what got Luis Díaz into the trouble with the red card that he got against Hakimi. I think that that was a terrible challenge. I don't know if there's anybody that thinks it's not a red, but it quite literally is one of the clearest red cards when you look at it from the other direction. Because again, like when we initially saw it, it was from the other direction where you could just see Hakimi falling over. And you saw the tackle from Luis Díaz from behind, but you didn't actually see it from the other side. When you see it from the other side and you see like the scissor motion, the height in which his leg collapses on the knee, all of those things. It's high, it's dangerous, it's reckless, it's a red, clear as day, and I'm hoping that, Hakimi's not out for a long period of time, but PSG losing their best player or their leader, Dembele, at least their attacking leader, Dembele, not having Desiree Doué as well, because he just got injured this last weekend, and losing Hakimi, they were definitely at a disadvantage with a strong Bayern side. So I think all those things kind of came together to give them a little bit less impetus, but I do think that they pushed well in the second half, got one goal back through João Neves, and probably could have scored a second. If the game had gone on another 10 minutes or so, they probably would have scored the equalizer, but Bayern did just enough to win that game. And, listen, as an Arsenal fan, I am happy that Luis Díaz is going to be missing for the game against us, but I still think that Bayern look stronger than they did last season and look like a more complete team that are kind of all playing, in the same way, feeling more confident with each other, have good performances from their attackers. They're going to be a tough team to beat in this competition, but it's not like PSG are completely out of it. We know how they started last season. They started off slow and ended up winning the Champions League. So I don't think you can take much away from this from a PSG perspective, except for the goalkeeper, where I think that he's not looking like a goalkeeper that's going to win you a Champions League, where Donnarumma came up so big, like examples against Arsenal, and basically like not kept them in the tie, but made big enough saves where you can be like, wow, he might have been their man of the match. Chevalier is not looking like that right now, but things can change. They got injuries. They kind of kicked themselves in the face. Bayern took advantage of it. Bayern were good for the 2-0 win, and they went down to 10 men quite early on in the game and held on, so they deserved it. Moving on to Liverpool versus Real Madrid. I had that game on the computer while the other game was on the TV for a reason. Real Madrid are the strangest team. They could either be the most exciting thing you've ever seen or be kind of diabolical. And I think they were kind of diabolical today. They should have lost by more. When you look at the XG between Liverpool and Real Madrid didn't create more than, I think they had like 0.38 XG in this game, which lines up with the eye test. And then Liverpool had like over 3 XG. They really should have scored more goals. It really wasn't that close. It really didn't feel like a real contest. Real Madrid seemed disjointed, a little stodgy. If their individual brilliance doesn't come out, it does kind of feel like they can get beat by anyone. And that's not to say that Liverpool or anyone, but I think two things can be true at the same time, that Real Madrid were disappointing with all the talent that they have out there, the Mbappes, the Bellinghams, the Vinny Juniors, Arda Güler, whoever, they should look better than what they look. They should muster more than a half chance against Liverpool, even at Anfield. Now, Liverpool, I do think, again, like I said, again, when they played against Aston Villa, two things can always be true at the same time. As rivals, we tend to always focus on, but the other team was so bad. Real Madrid can be bad, but that doesn't necessarily mean that just means that Liverpool are going to win. They actually have to capitalize on their situations. They actually have to keep Real Madrid from scoring. Like, there's still things you have to do, even if the other team is not great. And I think Liverpool, again, looked much better than what they look like pre-Villa. So in the last two games, Arne Slot has gone with Ekitike. He doesn't really have any choice but to do that. He's gone with the tried and true midfield of Szoboszlai, McAllister, and Gravenberch, and he's won both games. I mean, could it have just been so simple? Play the better striker, the one that's playing well, and play your tried and true hardworking midfield. Wirtz played on the wing. He did all right. That's probably one of his better kind of like performances. And, Konate and Van Dijk, I thought, were strong. And then again, adding Andy Robertson and limiting Kirkis's time has stabilized Liverpool. And I think just going back to something that feels more like the foundation that was built with Klopp. Of course, Slot is going to eventually have his own team, but it needs to happen slower. If you just dismantle everything, it's going to look like the mess that was pre the Aston Villa game, right? And so I just think that going back to the standard has really helped Slot, and they look a lot better. Again, Real Madrid weren't anything to write home about. They were, to me, poor on the day, but also Liverpool did things to make them poor. And one of the things that they did was Slot getting the lineup right. Them having the right combinations of players out there on the pitch, guys that have been there and done it before. Those things help, you know. So I think Liverpool, all in all, were definitely good for the win. They look much better than what they did before Aston Villa. And I would say that they are fully back if they do well against Manchester City at the weekend. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold was a big storyline coming into this game. It ended up not really being a storyline because he didn't, I think he came on. Let me see. Yeah, Trent Alexander-Arnold came on at about the 81st minute. So it really wasn't a storyline that people were making it out to be. And to me, a little bit, it's like the Trent coming back to Anfield, it's like enough. You know, it's really, he's moved on to a different team. He's in a different era. And I don't know what the big deal of him leaving on a free really was when he's won everything at the club. And it was, yeah, it wasn't really a storyline at the end of the day. But, you know, maybe these teams will meet up later on in the competition and it'll feel different because it's not the league phase. But yeah, I would say another thing that Liverpool can be really proud of as well is that they kept a on-form Mbappe incredibly quiet. I think Mbappe is having his like an amazing season. We know he's up there with Erling Haaland with the most goals in the world and, you know, definitely going for Ballon d'Or, going for all those things. He looks fantastic, but he did not look that way today. And I think some of that was them not really playing at their best. But again, Liverpool did well to definitely quell him. And none of their attackers really looked that great. You know, they had the Bellingham, they had Vinny Jr., they had Mbappe. Mbappe was the best of the group, but he was still kept pretty quiet. And I also want to say that Arne Slot is absolutely correct that in order to break open a difficult fixture, sometimes you need a set piece. Liverpool scored their one goal, and that goal was a set piece. They didn't get any other goals. And so where, you know, maybe there's been some not so nice conversations about Arsenal scoring on set pieces, it does seem like people like them a lot more when their team is scoring them. Sometimes you need a set piece to break the game open, and that's exactly what Liverpool needed. And if you have somebody like Dominic Szoboszlai, who's on form, playing really well, probably your player of the season so far, that has a wand of a foot, why wouldn't you use that to your advantage? And shame on Real Madrid for letting somebody like Alexis McAllister score that goal, because he was definitely like a full foot shorter than Tchouaméni, but McAllister got to that ball. Set pieces are not a problem. Just because somebody else is scoring them ad nauseum and it's pissing you off because you want them to lose, you definitely like them when your team scores. So I just want to put that out there. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about it didn't end up meaning anything or mattering because obviously Liverpool wins the game, but Tchouaméni had the handball in the box in the first half at like the end of the first half. And I actually don't think that that is a handball because I do think his hand is in a natural position. When you're sliding, your hand will probably be like this. But I still feel like the tariff for a handball needs to be a little bit higher. I still feel like it's so low that people think that anytime the ball touches your hand, it should be a penalty. I actually think penalties should be much harder to get. I think we're getting to a point where, especially in Europe, even the penalty that we got today, I feel like that shouldn't really be a handball or it shouldn't really be a penalty. It just feels so soft, you know? And I think the referee does get it right, but I feel like we've been conditioned to believe that anytime the ball hits your hand, it's in an unnatural position and it should be a penalty. But his arm wasn't out like this or up like this. His arm was down by his side. And had he had been standing up in that same position and his hand was like this and the ball hit him right here, that you would know that that's a natural position. It's not making his body any bigger. And so I think that they got the call right and it was not a penalty, but I just wanted to address it because I saw some people saying that they felt like that was 100% a penalty. And I was just like, not so much. But anyways, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel and get into the comments and let me know what you guys thought about these two massive fixtures in the Champions League phase. And I will talk to you guys on the next one. Bye guys.